All right, so Intro to Tkinter Part 2. For those of you who are streaming out there or watching it live stream, you can see it. So what I want to cover here is a couple more things for Tkinter as we move into this framework. And we're shifting this week, like I said in the previous part of this session. We're moving from Tkinter into Pygame. So I'm going to talk more Pygame this week, and I'm going to do that in the later parts of this of our video. Yeah.
I'm just wondering why you decided to go with Pygame the whole way through. Why did you want to show Tkinter?
Tkinter is part of Python, right? And one day you might not be programming a game, right? You might be using Python for other applications. So my duty as a professor is to try and give you the ability to make a GUI, a user interface for Python, which maybe one day you'll be using to build a Windows application or something else, right? Or a Linux application or a Mac application, because remember, it's application or platform independent, right? So that's why I did it. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about keyboard events and focus with Tkinter. So again, we have to understand the concept of input focus or simply focus. So it's what allows us to, the widgets on your GUI to see keyboard events. All right? That's what we're doing. And only one widget at a time can have the focus, and the widget that has the focus is the widget that sees and responds to keyboard events. And I think that's the really important thing, right? So let's take a look at keyboard.py, which is up, again, it's part of your assignment number, or lesson number 5 archive. All right, so here's keyboard.py. I'm just going to kill this for a second. Now, on the videos, and again, lots of you haven't seen the videos, we created classes. And I think if you haven't watched along on the videos, I would ask that you follow along now, because this is key. We're going to talk about classes again, but let's talk about the class a little bit again in review from last lesson. So again, the way we do classes is we have the class keyword, right? I've called this class my app, right, as an example. And then I have the constructor, which is like in any other kind of class, in any other language, you have the constructor. It's a double underscore, init, double underscore. That's how you do the constructor. You've got to use the self keyword right there. And if you have a parent class that's going to come into it at all, or if you're going to link to the parent, that's where this parent variable is coming through. Okay? So this is what actually gets passed into the constructor. Okay? Now I'm not... that must be me. Is it someone else?
No, that's me.
Are you copying my
You have the same line?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's crazy. It's crazy. You have to modify. You have to be a major geek. Huh? What was that? Keyboard.py on lesson 5 archives. All right. So if you bring the lesson 5 archives up, keyboard.py. So if you look at it with me, again, you've got the class keyword. You have to use a def keyword to define your constructor method. This is the constructor method. And inside the constructor method, you have a bunch of, if you ignore the self keywords, there are just a bunch of variables here, right? So self says this class's my parent property is equal to the parent variable that's passed into the class, into the constructor, right? So I'm basically, in this particular case, the parent would be the parent container. Okay, that's what I'm doing. So I'm passing the parent container into my class. Okay. Then I'm creating my own container called myContainer1. Right here's the frame, and I'm using the frame function that's built into Tkinter, and I'm actually linking it to the parent. So all I'm doing here, and again, I'm drawing for those of you at home or whoever's watching this video later on. Too bad, I can't show you this, unfortunately. But basically, you have the top-level window. This is your parent container. And inside the top-level window, you have this frame that's another container that is linked to the parent window. Okay? And this is the key for Tkinter, right? Each of the containers are linked to their parent containers. So if I make buttons, I've got to determine where that button lies, which container that button's inside of. I can't put the button out here, right? Outside of the containers. They got to be in the container somehow, right? So in this particular case, if I move this button, so it's inside the frame container, right? It's going to be linked to that container. Okay, it's going to have that as a parent. And my container itself, which would be the frame, is its parent container is the top level window. Okay, so then if you're creating your, let's go back to this drawing program you're going to do. Theoretically, I could have more than one frame that's inside of my window. Here's my top level window, right? Right? And inside this top level window, I have one container here for my tool strip, let's say, and I've got another container over here next to it, right? That's for my canvas. Two containers. Tools, right? Canvas. Right? So these are the two containers that are inside my parent container top level window. Okay? My buttons would be in my tools container. Okay? As an example, if I was doing it with the Tkinter. Yes?
Sort of change the topic a little bit, but for the assignment 3, are we going to have like a palette of colors to pick from, or just?
Yes, there's an actual tool you're going to have to create to bring up a palette of colors. Right? Now you could do it on your own, or you could, and I'll show you a quick way to use Tkinter for that. There you could use Tkinter, because you're not using it. You're using a Tkinter function. You're not actually making it take over the video, which I'll show you later on. Okay, so you've got this button, right? The button itself. Here's the button. It's inside your constructor function, and it's linked to your parent container, which is the frame. Okay? I'm configuring some different properties. So my text for the button is going to be okay, and my background for the button is going to be green, right, as an example. I'm also going to pack it to the left side of the container. That's what this thing is doing here. And I'm going to force focus. Look what this does. It forces the focus so that when I hit the Enter key, it's going to actually hit the OK button first. I'm actually shifting the focus, right, or selecting that button so the keyboard can actually interact with it. And I'm actually listening for two events. So there's event binding right here. Here's how event binding works in Tkinter. I've got the bind function or method that's built into Tkinter, the type of event that I'm listening for, in this particular case the left mouse button and the return button, right? That's what the kind of event I'm listening for in Tkinter. And then the function that's going to receive the event, right? So I've got what I'm listening for and what method is going to do something with my event. So, okay, I'm listening. When I get an event, click from these two types of event, then go to these two different methods. Now in this particular case, the method is the same. So for example, here, what I'm saying is this is the button event that I'm getting, or the keyboard event, and these are the methods that are receiving the event, this button1.click method. Okay? And the same thing for the second button. Button 2, right, it's going to have cancel as its text. It's going to have a red background. It's going to listen for button 1 and return, but it's not going to have focus. Only button 1 is going to receive the focus right now. Okay? And here's my method, my button 1 click method for actually receiving the event. Okay? So then here's where I check, right? So I'm going to wait for the event. I said if self.button1 background is equal to green, so I've got to click, right? If my background is at green, change it to yellow, right? Else, if it's something else, change it back to green. That's all it's going to do. I've got the event. I'm not checking for what the event is, right? I've got the event, right? Button 2 click is the same thing, right? I'm waiting for the event, and then as soon as I click on button 2, I destroy my parent, right? When I destroy my parent, my window closes down. Okay, that's what this thing does. I've also got this other function called, which I call a couple times that you've noticed, it's called report event, right? Report event is actually a method that actually prints my event to the console. That's what this thing does. Okay, so every time I click on a button, it actually prints stuff out to the console and then also does stuff in the GUI. That's what this thing does. Okay, so I've got this class, but right now it doesn't do anything. I've got to instantiate this class. Remember, if I put all this stuff inside the constructor, if you notice, there's no other methods except for these two methods right here are the only methods outside of the constructor. Everything else is inside the constructor itself. These are all the buttons and everything else, which means as soon as I instantiate my class, my view comes into play. That's how it works for Tkinter. I create my class, and as soon as I instantiate it, boom, the window appears. Okay? And how that works is, going down to my main function, root, which is my top level window, it's inheriting the Tkinter framework here, and I'm instantiating my class, which I just created, which is linked to root as its parent container, right? I'm instantiating in my own little object called myapp, lowercase, right? Once I've done that, everything that I have to do, all the objects where they're going to go, it's allocated to that object, which I've created just now, right? And then in order for me to kick it off, I just do the root.main loop, so whatever, your top level window, and I use the main loop method for the top level window, and boom, it kicks off. So this is what it looks like when I run it. So I run this function, or this thing, and it just gives me this little, these two buttons. Now if you notice, you can't see the frame, the container that these buttons are on, because the frame's background is transparent. I haven't kind of configured the frame at all. And it's the same size, it's the same size as your parent container right now, which is the top level window. That's why it's shrunk down like that. So I have two buttons, OK and cancel. When I click OK, it changes color, and it reports the type of event that I'm getting in my console, right? And when I click cancel, it closes down my window and kills my application. Okay, that's what this thing does. So again, what I'm showing here is how to take keyboard focus. So if I run this thing again, we'll do this before we go on break. I'm just going to move this window here again without shifting focus. If I hit my return key, it also changes my my color of my button because the OK button has focus. If I tab, the cancel button now has focus and I can kill my window, right? But I have to set focus with my set focus command up here, right? So if I focus force, which is the method, right? And in other programming languages, this method is a little different. But all I'm doing is I'm forcing focus on a particular control when the window opens. That's what I'm showing you here, right? So if you want a keyboard command to work. And by the way, if I don't listen for return, so if I take out this line, right? And I'm just going to do it here like this. And if I take out this line, right? So I'm just going to comment out those two lines. Now I'm only listening for button focus, a button click, right? So let's try that out. Now, even though my my OK button has cancel focus, I can't do anything with it with my keyboard. It's not going to accept keyboard input. I have to listen for that type of event. The only way, even though it has focus, I still can only click on it with my mouse. So that's what these two lines do. These two lines here, they give the window focus. All right, or the ability. Sorry, they give the controls the ability to take keyboard input. Okay. Now with that, I'm going to pause and let you guys go to your bio break and your smoke break and whatever else you have to do, and then we'll continue when you come back.